Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to part 2 of the 2v2 strategy for a Zerg and Terran 2v2 team. Now I introduced these players in the last video, but I'll go ahead and do the same here. Our Zerg player here is Sorcery and our Terran player is Power. These names are ridiculous, unbelievable. Our opponents in this game are Protec, the Protoss player, and Kami, the Zerg player. So what we are looking at, as discussed in the last video, is opening up with early Speedlings and Banelings. Our Terran ally is going to be getting Marines. And the effectiveness of this push cannot be understated. Early game pushes in 2v2s are incredibly effective because, as stated in the prior video, the dynamic in this matchup is much different than any 1v1. The way the games play out, much different. Early aggression lends itself to be very successful in these matchups just because it can be so effective, especially when the players are isolated from one another. Now, on that note, this isn't actually the best map for that example because both allies are relatively close with these ramps here. It's not too far of a distance, but even in this distance here, you can easily cut off reinforcements with something like Speedlings and a few Marines being held back. So even here it's effective, but there are definitely other maps where it's much more effective, where both players are much further away from each other. And if you hit one of them within the around the 5-minute mark early on in the game, you can absolutely devastate them. So we're going to be starting off with Speedlings, also going to be getting some Banelings in order to take care of any light units that our opponents may have, as well as the workers. Our primary focus when we move in with our Speedlings and our Banelings is going to be to hurt our opponent's economy. That's what you're looking to do. If you can take out their economy, you can pretty much set them back for the next 5 or 10 in-game minutes, because they're going to have to spend nearly all of their resources just rebuilding their workers even. So the opening build, as far as timings for everything that we're looking at, beginning with a 14 Extractor, following that up with a 14 spawning pool. You can see here getting scouting information, trying to see if there's any early pushes or anything funny coming from our opponents. That spawning pool was fairly well timed. It wasn't too early, so we're not expecting a 10 pool or anything from the Zerg player. And then over here, we only see that one gateway. You want to spot that second gas. We need to see if there's an assimilator going down, because for all we know, there could be an early zealot push. So do make sure that you check that secondary gas. So opening up with Speedlings. I want to go back to that timing, starting off with the Extractor of 14, and then after that, getting the spawning pool of 14. This allows you, as soon as the Extractor comes up, if you saturate it, this allows you to get that Speedling upgrade right away, and that's precisely what you want to do. You want to get that Speedling upgrade as soon as possible. Now, as soon as this spawning pool is up, that's when the Speedling upgrade came in. The exact timing on that was 17 supply. Also, right after that, at 17 supply, we get our Queen. Obviously, we want that Queen up. Early game defense, the spawn larva ability, very, very effective. And now we're going to be getting this Banelings Nest at 20 supply. That dropped us down to 19. So that's when we're going to be getting the Banelings Nest as well, very early. So we're getting that Speedling upgrade and that Banelings Nest very early. Again, we're going to be pushing around the 5-minute mark, so we want to make sure that we can have those Banelings out around that time. And our speed upgrade should be finished right around then as well. So in a particular point like this, you don't necessarily want to engage if your opponent's Zerglings are pushing out against you, because you know you've got Speedlings coming very shortly, and 2 Speedlings would quite easily take out that entire group. So just wait until that point. There's no reason to sacrifice all of your Zerglings unnecessarily. Wait until you have the upper hand. Wait until you have that advantage. Now that our speed upgrade is just coming in, changing some of these guys into Banelings. You wouldn't necessarily want to do it here normally. The reason we are seeing these Banelings being brought in here is because our opponent has these Zerglings at an advanced position. Ideally, you would just want to bring your Speedlings up, turn them into Banelings right outside of their base, and then move in. The reason being is because Banelings are much slower, especially without that speed upgrade, so it's going to take them a while to catch up to the rest of your forces. So at this point, we're going to be pushing out. This is exactly what I talked about early in the game. Once we get into his base, what you're going to want to do is target that economy. That's going to be your main focus. Your Terran ally is going to try to help mop up any units that could be a threat to your Speedlings or Banelings, and you just want to move into that economy and try to take it out. If you can, also try to get a surround on that Queen. Hopefully your Terran ally will help you by targeting down that with his Marines. But this is the focus here, getting these Banelings into the mineral line. Look at that, so much damage. We took out so many of his workers. Just absolutely devastating, and he is set back for at least 5 in-game minutes. He's going to be spending all of his resources just making drones. You pretty much don't have to worry about him until the 10 or 12-minute mark, because up until that point, he's not going to have units. Now, a little bit of a missed micro there from our Terran ally. You want to yell at him if something like that happens. Tell him, get those Marines away from those Banelings. They're much faster. What are you doing, you big goofball? Now, at this point, we pushed out. All right, we did a lot of damage. We crippled one of our opponents. Good. That's the goal. That's exactly what we needed to do for this to be successful. So mission accomplished. It wasn't a full straight out win at that push. A lot of times it will be, but in this particular game it wasn't. So now we need to prepare for a transition. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting the evolution chamber. Purpose here is twofold. One, we're going to be able to get spore crawlers just in case we happen to be seeing any air units from one of our opponents. So we're going to want to scout for that. But the second reason, something else that's also very important, is we're going to be getting this level 1 upgrade here. And that's what we're looking to do. Now on top of that, you're also going to want to look to expand at this point. Not going to be continuing to drone up quite yet. In fact, you can see that we've taken all of our guys off of the extractor because we do want to get those resources that are going to allow us to continue the Speedling production, as well as it's going to allow us to expand, and that's definitely the goal here. So just going to be poking around. Stalkers, your Speedlings are going to be very effective against them up until the point they get Blink. Once Blink is out, it's much more difficult for you, but luckily, at this point, your Terran ally has been transitioning into Marauders, so you're going to be all set against those Blink Stalkers. You don't have to worry too much. In fact, you're going to be in a very strong position, because if he tries to engage first, and then your opponent blinks away the Stalkers, that's a perfect opportunity for you to move in with your Speedlings and take them out while the blink is still on cooldown. So these units, this combination of units in conjunction with one another is very effective. Something I said in the last video is that obviously with this type of transition you're going to be very susceptible, very susceptible to air units. Something like Void Rays from a Protoss opponent, Banshees from a Terran opponent, Mutalisks from a Zerg opponent. These are all things you have to be worried about. So scouting, super important. You can see here our Terran ally is just about to come up to 50 resources, maybe asking him to drop a scan, unless you can run into your opponent's base just like this. If you can do this, perfect. You're in a great spot. You're going to be able to see precisely what he has for building, so you're pretty much all set at that point. Now here's that transition that we're talking about. We're going to be teching up to a layer at this point. So not seeing that expansion. You would like to see an expansion, but coming out with a layer isn't a terrible idea as well. I'm a little concerned about this move though without getting an expansion, solely because if you take a look at the resources, very low. We're not going to be able to support much of anything that we're going to be able to produce from getting a layer. We obviously can't support Mutalisks at this point, can't really support Hydras as well. I strongly suggest getting an expansion at least at the same time that you start to get this layer, if not before. So going to be moving into the enemy player's base here with these Speedlings. Now something I do want to note too, it's probably going to be a really good idea to maybe even just hit the Zerg player. Now if I bring up the everyone button here, you're going to see, look how defenseless he is. Absolutely nothing. Now a lot of times you're going to be seeing Protoss or Terran players wall off against you. Now obviously we have those Banelings to deal with that if that's what we chose to do, but if you have a Zerg opponent and you're playing with Speedlings and Banelings, they're probably going to be your best target. So following up here with a secondary attack at our Zerg player's base would be a good idea. Now this is exactly what I'm talking about. We hit him early, we crippled him, and look at what he has. He has been rebuilding drones this entire time because that's all he's been able to afford to do. So this is exactly what I was saying. If you can take someone out, if you can cripple them early on in the game, you pretty much render them ineffective until between like the 10 and 12 minute mark. They're not going to be able to do much of anything. So let's just go over this build order real quick. Obviously very simple. Keep in mind again that the reason I'm showing you guys this is because it's so very effective. I would be amiss not to show you this because I definitely want you guys to know that the dynamic is different in 2v2, the playstyle is different, and these types of builds are very effective because it's very easy with a well-timed push early on in the game to completely take someone out with pretty much nothing that their ally can do to stop it. I mean, it's nearly impossible to stop a push like this from at least doing damage. So the build order here, very simple, clearly. Started off with a 14 Extractor, saturated that right away once it came up. Remember, that's going to get us that Speedling upgrade right away. Also at 14, we got that spawning pool, so we did 14 Extractor, drops us down to 13, build another drone, back up to 14, put a spawning pool down. 17 supply. As soon as that spawning pool came up, we had that 100 gas and we could afford that Speedling upgrade, that Metabolic Boost, so started researching that right away. 17 supply, also getting this Queen out. 20 supply, getting that Banelings Nest. Now we did that initial attack, crippled our opponent. That's when the transition is coming, getting this Evolution Chamber. We got that level 1 melee upgrade. And again, we're seeing this layer here, but you can see here, I mean, kind of what's the point? You know, you can't afford it at this point, especially if you've been going really hard for Zerglings, so I would suggest at least accompanying a layer upgrade to also getting another hatchery and droning up a little bit, because getting this layer so early, you can't even afford anything really, so it's kind of pointless. So once again, guys, this has been Forced Strategy Gaming. If you guys like our video and you like what we're doing here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. At the end of this video, you're going to be able to click over to the Terran view of this particular game. Thanks a lot, guys. Keep watching and keep owning. If he did go for Void Rays, wouldn't you be screwed? Something else to realize is he's not very likely to go for Void Rays because we hit his opponent so hard early in the game. He's likely to build a lot of early defenses for fear of a secondary attack. And if he doesn't build early defenses, if we didn't see a lot of stalkers on the board, we would have hit before this point and we would have taken him out as he was teching up to Void Rays. So that's